I really tried to think about this question for the last couple of days, and I realized that all the economists that we've heard from during the course of this conference are much better placed to tell you what specific area or what specific rule or what specific law requires, relaxation. I think the thing that I would rephrase this to mean is, beyond thinking about areas or rules or laws that require deregulation, what are the components in the public policy pipeline that it takes to pull off a successful deregulation exercise? And I think the thing that I have begun to see value in over the last 6.5 years at working at Vidhi is between the best ideas and who is supposed to be the ideal receptor of those ideas, there is a bridging exercise or a pipeline that needs to be able to translate the best ideas available on how something ought to be done to who is actually doing it. And the lesser distortion there is in the way, the better those ideas ultimately reflect in how they take shape. So for instance, at Vidhi, the work that we do specifically is drafting laws. And the feeling that I'm sort of, getting as I'm hearing a lot more conversations on, deregulation is that there is a lot of ideas in the room in terms of what needs to be relaxed, etc. But it is equally important for us to ensure those ideas travel in a way where they're baked into the final legal documents that are going to effectuate deregulations, which are going to happen through either new laws or amending some existing laws, amending existing rules. So that is an entire process in and of itself. And I think in India, that translational layer between the best ideas and who are the implementers of ideas is a muscle that could use some more strengthening. And if there is one thing that I think I'd like for young researchers to think about, is that translation is equally important as the ideas themselves. And more capacity in translation just means better ideas that travel through the pipeline, lesser chances of a distortion, noise to signal ratio is as we like it to be, and they ultimately take the shape that we want them to. I think when we talk about the government who is going to ultimately be implementing these ideas, there's a tendency to think about the government as a bit of a monolith. But when we actually get into the business of carrying out a reform of this nature, what we end up realizing is that you're talking to everyone from that's a principal secretary to an undersecretary to line officers to the law department that will finally vet a draft and send it across. And often you're also dealing with a revolving situation of, bureaucrats moving around and, catching up with continuity and the like. So there is an understudied complexity to the process that is beyond just having the right ideas. In that when we approach the org structure of the government, there is a lot that we can do to ensure that the best ideas are not lost in coordination, because coordination is one of the biggest challenges that I think that we try and solve for at Vidhi. This problem gets manifolded when we're talking about a very episodic mission like decriminalization or deregulation. And often what I'm trying to get to is that there is meaningful work that needs to be done to ensure that that doesn't happen. And we've done it enough to know that there is also complexity in that part of the pipeline. And if we start paying more attention there, so much of what we want to say will travel without distortion. I've often thought about it even in terms of what is the best way a lawyer like myself can be useful in a deregulation exercise, right? Like parts of me wants to think that a reason a bunch of this, laws exist is because lawyers have a way of speaking or making things very, very complex. And I'm sure legalese being a complex body, an inaccessible body of work is, a bit of a pervasive sentiment. But having said that, how can we be part of the larger solution in deregulation is a question that I've often asked myself too. And that's where I think this becomes very interesting, in that the path to idea to execution, I think, has space for a lot of actors. And I think it might be helpful for young researchers to think about not where they can shine the brightest, but where their value has the most utility for this entire pipeline of deregulation. And I think as lawyers, a good way that we can all be part of the solution is to take and understand and develop our instincts about deregulation with the best ideas that exist out there, ensure that we are very fair and meritocratic in the way where we evaluate what is the best idea to take to the bureaucrat, be selective about that, present a range of options. There are going to be, political economy problems that is not going to, and that's going to end up as not choosing the best solution at all points in time, but it is still worth trying. So let us keep at it, and I'm sure that something will come out of that. But at least for young lawyers, and if that's who I would hope to reach through something like this, there is value and there is definitely merit in being in the last mile of this pipeline. And I hope that more lawyers are able to look at their role in public policy or deregulation in this way.